Hi, welcome to FineScale Modeler Weekly.
Our weekly look at what's new, fun, and interesting in our hobby.
Let's open the show by opening some new kits.
Starting with a 1/35th scale BMD-2, a Soviet lightweight infantry fighting vehicle from HobbyBoss.
Comparing the parts to the Panda Hobby BMD-2 that was released in 2015, this appears to be a reboxing of that kit.
Much of the small vehicle is represented in the kit by the lower and upper hull section. Both have finely molded surface details, including suspension attachments, panel and weld lines, vents, and hatch openings.
The running gear comprises the fine ride wheels and idlers, suspension arms, drive sprockets, and return rollers, and individual link tracks. Joining the lower hull and rear are the passages for the amphibious propulsion system.
Hatches, fuel tanks, tools, and lights finish the hull.
Surface detail on the turret looks good. The barrel of the 30mm autocannon should require little cleanup, and there is a 9P 135M anti-tank missile tube on the roof, as well as optics, lights, and a hatch.
Photo etched metal supplies engine screens, brackets, and fording plates. The decals provide markings for 4 unidentified vehicles. One in Russian 3-color camouflage, a plain-looking BMD in overall green, one wearing blue stripes, and finally one with Cyrillic messages on the sides.
This looks like a decent kit of the BMD in the box.
Our next subject is a little bit different, but if you like biplanes or between the wars aircraft, you should like this one.
From Azur FrRom, we have 2 versions of the Potez 25 in 1/72nd scale.
This aircraft was designed for reconnaissance and bombing, and the 2-seater plane was used by the French Air Force through the 1930s and into World War II.
It was also purchased by more than 20 other countries.
We start with the Potez 25 Renault 12kg, but the kits are very similar since the difference between the versions is the engine.
Much of the fuselage is represented in halves, with the belly being separate. The wings and tailplanes have molded ribs and stressed fabric. The streamlined cowl of this version is added to the front of the fuselage, and the prop is 3D printed. Interplane, cabane, and landing gear struts are fine.
Cockpit details include the floor with added supports and bulkhead separating the pilot and gunner, seats, instrument panel, and camera. There are clear parts for the camera window and windscreen, and photo-etched brass supplies control horns and aileron parts.
Decals provide 3 marking options for French aircraft in matching green and natural metal, with nice squadron badging on the fuselage.
The other kit represents the Potez 25 powered by the Salmson 18 CMB engine. Different here is the forward fuselage with the distinctive lumps, a larger rudder, and a plastic prop. The decals look good with options for 3 aircraft in the same green with natural metal cowls and squadron badges on the tails.
These are neat kits of an interesting, if lesser-known plane, and should make a colorful addition to any collection.
Let's take a break from the kits.
Why, we're on a roll.
Well, I thought we should take a look at some books from Osprey.
Well, cool. What do we have?
We start with Combat Aircraft 152, U-2 Dragon Lady Units 1955 to 90. In the 96-page softcover, Peter E. Davies traces the U-2 from delivery and training with both CIA and USAF, overflying the Soviet Union, Vietnam, and elsewhere. Photos and color profiles bolster the text.
The other book comes from the new Vanguard series, German Tanks in France, 1940. Written by Stephen J. Zaloga, the 46-page softcover looks at how armor was used with blitzkrieg tactics using photos and illustrations.
Eduard has a reputation for combining plastic parts from other manufacturers with its detail sets.
And adding a ton of decal options.
The latest of these limited edition kits is Freedom Tiger covering F5s in 1/48th scale.
The plastic here is AFV Club's terrific F5, first released in 2010. You can read our workbench review of it at the link in the description. Surface detail and engineering are terrific, and the cockpit looks pretty sharp out of the box.
But this kit takes everything up several notches with pre-painted photo-etched metal for the instrument panels and seat belts, and more photo-etched metal for the canopy sills, antennas, external vents, and more. Pre-cut masks will aid painting, and there are resin replacements for the wheels.
A large decal sheet supplies weapon and airframe stencils and markings for 8 aircraft. A South Vietnamese fighter deployed at the very end of the conflict, with options to model the same plane as it looks at the Aviation Museum Kelly in Prague. A Navy adversary in 2-tone blue camo with VFC-13 Fighting Saints in 1990. A Marine adversary in desert camouflage in 1981. a U.S. Air Force plane wearing the frog scheme at the 57th Fighter Weapons Wing at Nellis Air Force Base in 1981, a Navy adversary with VFA 127 Cylons at NAS Fallon in 1993, a 425th Squadron aircraft in SEA camo at Luke Air Force Base in the late 1970s, a Brazilian plane wearing an anniversary scheme, and a Thai Air Force fighter in an interesting two-tone camouflage.
That's a lot of options for a pretty plane.
It really is. Look for reviews of the BMD-2 and Potez 25 at FineScale.com.
FineScale Modeler Weekly is brought to you by Hobby Zone USA, your source for hobby storage solutions, hard-to-find hobby tools, and aftermarket modeling needs.
Do you like what you see here and want more? Subscribe to FineScale Modeler magazine. You'll get 6 issues a year crammed with how-to stories from some of the best modelers around the world. Go to finescale.com/YouTube for a special offer for YouTube viewers like you.
To continue my journey through your questions to me about what I'm using at my workbench for specific things, this time it's, what am I using at my workbench to clean my airbrushes? Well, first of all, I've got a couple of my airbrushes right here. I've got my trusty Grex. I like my XT here. That's a cool one. I also have a Neo. They'd have to be dirty for them to be cleaned, right? So anyway, I need a dirty airbrush. Beyond that, the 2 cleaners that I use the most are Windex and lacquer thinner. Windex I use all the time for clearing out acrylic paints out of my airbrushes. I have gotten away from using isopropyl alcohol because isopropyl alcohol does not mix well with all acrylic paints. Doesn't do the job as well. I find that I get really good results with using Windex to shoot and clear out acrylic paint out of my airbrush. Now I know. What about the ammonia? Okay. Don't soak your parts of the airbrush in the Windex. Don't do that. You're not leaving your parts in the Windex super long. You're using it to just clear that stuff out. You're doing the work, and then you're going to go ahead and flush your airbrush with plenty of water afterward. So as long as you are not just leaving, your brass parts soaking in the Windex, the ammonia shouldn't pit them or affect them. You do have an option with this kind of glass cleaner is to go with not the original, but you can also go with the non-ammonia version of it. I don't like it as well, but it still does the job. So you can go that route too. I really do like this for clearing out acrylic paints. Lacquer thinner is going to be for enamels and lacquers and the really troublesome acrylic paints that are not getting out as easily as I would like. Then I bring in the big dog and I just flush the whole thing with the lacquer thinner. The thing that you need to be careful of when using lacquer thinner is that it can affect your seals, your O-rings, those kinds of things in your airbrush. So just be careful, make sure you're checking those and that the lacquer thinner, if you're using a lot of it, is not deteriorating those parts. Moving on. I keep a bottle of water handy to clear out the Windex and to flush out the lacquer thinner out of the airbrush. Very useful. I used to use pipe cleaners all the time to clear out areas like this channel at the bottom of this reservoir here. It fit really nicely in there, and other spaces in the airbrush that just sort of need to have some scrubbing that this brush would do. I have since started using these brushes here. I have a set. This is from Green Stuff World. You can get them from Iwata or any number of other manufacturers. They come in a variety of sizes, these brushes do, a number of different diameters that allow you to use the one that best fits the area that you're trying to clean. They're relatively stiff, which is nice. And so, for instance, you just get in here, instead of using the pipe cleaner, you can use this brush to do the same sort of thing. And what I like about it is that the bristles are stiff, where you could find that with pipe cleaners, the quality of them could vary. Pipe cleaners can bend really easily, and yeah, the bristles weren't always, you know, best suited for clearing paint. So I really do have come to like having these brushes at my workbench to help with cleaning. Similarly, I've also gotten a set of different sized reamers. Now these are just wrapped wire in 5 different diameters, and they're a little bit stiffer, and they can get into those areas that the brushes can't. Now the one thing that I will caution you about is that you want to make sure that you are not scuffing up the inside of your airbrush with these, but you know, these are good for clearing places that have buildup of paint that, you know, is difficult to get at with any other tool. So I've been using these, and again, you can get, this is from Green Stuff World. You can get these from the same sort of manufacturers that you can get these brushes from. So very useful. Something else that I have come to like is a very sharp tool. This little, very fine-tipped reamer, you could call it. And what this is used for is to clear out your nozzle without damaging it. So if you're finding that you're getting some occlusion at the nozzle, or when you take this out and you're looking in there and there's some paint that's stuck up in there that you just are having a heck of a time clearing out, you can use this, and as you can see, it's kind of like a needle, except that the end of it here is actually a half, right? So I'll do that, and then you can see it right there. It's actually a semicircle all the way out to the tip there. And what that allows you to do then is insert that into the inside of the nozzle and actually turn it gently, and you can scrape the paint right on out of it. It's a very, very nice tool to have. Just be extremely careful with it because it's super sharp. And if you've ever like accidentally stuck yourself with the needle of from your airbrush, yeah, this is going to be the same or maybe even worse. And lastly, at the workbench, how could we not have the humble cotton swab? I usually keep 2 different kinds, your typical looking cotton swab and the cotton swab that is more pointed toward the end. I pick up my cotton swabs out of the cosmetics section at the store because I find that they're more tightly wound for applying makeup or taking makeup off. Not that I know much about that, but my wife assures me that that's the reason why. Anyway, that's what else I keep at my workbench for helping clean up my airbrushes. Usually for cleaning up like the outsides, right? Make them nice and shiny again, or getting to those spots where I've spilled or that are just easily gotten to with the cotton swab. Nothing magical, nothing major. That's just what I have. I guess, you know, also paper towels, because you gotta have paper towel, but I have paper towel at the workbench for any number of things, so not specifically my airbrush.
So, we're in the process of moving offices
To another office about 5 minutes away from where we are right now.
and because of that, we will not be shooting for a couple of weeks because the studios are also packing up.
We got to pack all this stuff up, and then we shoot this from Studio B. Other parts of the show are shot just on the other side of this wall in Studio A. That's all got to get packed up, and that has to be shipped to the other place, and then it needs to be all unpacked and set back up again.
Right. Which is to say, we'll have a little bit of a hiatus for a couple of weeks.
About two weeks.
So, fret not.
We'll be back.
The FineScale Modeler Weekly will be back. Scale Model Basics will be back. The two of us will be back, which might or might not be a good thing, depending on how you feel about us.
But in the meantime, we'll have a couple of shorts and some other things that'll be out, for you guys to view. But we just need to get the studios torn down and then put back together again, and then get back to
our regularly
video.
scheduled programming.
Right. I mean, we tried. We tried to shoot as much ahead as we could, as far enough ahead as we could, but between our shooting schedule and building and putting the magazine out and everything else,
and us having to move our own offices.
there's only so much time, and we have personal lives. I don't know if you guys know that or not, but we
He does.
we do have other things to do, right?
Right.
We enjoy gin and tonics and beer and
Backyards.
backyards, sure.
Playing D&D, that sort of thing.
There you go. So anyway, we will be back. Thank you for watching.
We'll see you the next time you see us.
Exactly. Bye.
Bye.
Our next subject is a little different, but
How different is it, Kendra?
a little different.
Just a little?
Just a little different.
Not too different. From Azur FrRom, we have. I was so keyed up to get that, and then it took so long to get there that I just lost it. We're not professionals.
Believe it or not, we do have to have scripts in front of us.
Don't give away the secrets.
FineScale Modeler Weekly is brought to you by HobbyZone USA, your source for hobby storage solutions, hard to find hobby tools, and aftermarket modeling needs.
We are the Reservoir Clogs. The Reservoir Clogs. The Reservoir Clogs.
I am Monsieur White.
I know. Tinkerbell? Really? Tinkerbell? I'm like. Blah, 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 blah.